We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing episodes of the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, but most times we go deep. And today is no exception, as we premiere our coverage of Fear the Walking Dead's season premiere of of season 6. I'm your host, David Cameo, and I'll be presenting you with that very shortly. Just wanted to say hi before I show it to you, and just to say thank you for hanging in there this week. We have, we have both episodes of this week recorded. We just have to edit the second episode, which is the Walking Dead World Beyond second episode, Blaze of Gory. So I'd like you to sit here and enjoy, and hopefully you'll find some fun times will be had by all. Needless to say, we kind of mentioned this in the episode, but there isn't too much depth to this one. We kind of derive a couple things from here and there. We make some parallels and associations to other characters in the universe. But yeah, and overall we did some research. We did some Google Mapsing with some of the coordinates that were available in this episode. I hope you really, really enjoy it. Hey, Rachel, good to see you pop on. I really hope you enjoy this. Now, if you feel inspired to support us and get the unedited footage, of which there is a lot to both episodes, which are up. We have the unedited footage for this episode and the next episode already up on ko-fi.com/squawkingdead. For less than a cup of coffee, you can get 30 days of access to our unedited content, access to our recordings so you can be there when we record in the chat, contributing just as Sharon D has, Blazy Gardner on Instagram and Twitter. So she features very much prominently, as she is a major Fear family fearhead. So you could be one too. So head over to ko-fi.com/squawkingdead. And I'm just watching the chat right now. Head over to that. Create your account and at least follow us. And also, if you subscribe to a coffee a month, the party just keeps on rolling. Now, if you feel inspired to give during the stream, your message will actually pop up on YouTube, Facebook, wherever, and it'll stay there forever, as long as we stay on the platform. So that will be on that video forever. So enjoy that, and I will definitely enjoy that. Mention it in the chat. In any case, here we go. Exactly. Enjoy this brand new intro by the... Oh, Darren just bought us a coffee. Now he gets my reaction in real time. There you go. Hey, that's actually new and improved. Oh, that's cool. Thanks, Darren. Thanks, Big D. Thank you very much. And so now I don't know what I'm doing right now. But hey, I want you to enjoy the intro sequence. I created it just this morning because obviously I don't get sleep. I did it throughout the night. I created a little sound bit. I really, really hope you enjoy it. It's good. If you hear it in the audio podcast, there's a little bit of panning stereo going on. So look out for the podcast when we release it tonight at some point, because I'll be doing a little housekeeping. I'll be doing a virtual con at Fan Expo Vancouver tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern and 7 o'clock Pacific, and obviously way too late for Big D. Darren, Whispers UK, just had to mention that also. If you want to join us, head over to Alicia Noel PLZ on Instagram. Her bio, you can actually RSVP for free tonight and join us for some Walking Dead trivia. That's ALECIA NOEL PLZ. And RSVP for that. It's 10 o'clock tonight. Please join us. We'll be teaming up against each other. I'm part of the Saviors. I said, put me on any team that has less. We save. Anywho, love you guys. Check out the episode. Check out this intro. I hope you enjoy it. And I hope you enjoy the graphics, by the way, which was provided to us by Freakish Order. Freakish.order on Instagram. I think it's just Freakish Order on Twitter. Very, very cool. You'll see it in the thumbnail on the YouTube video and Facebook videos, and it's just take a good look at it. We did some good work together, and I hope you enjoy it. Take care, see you in the chat, and enjoy. We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing episodes of the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh. Most times, we go deep. And this is one of those times. Again, it's our third episode covering something. We covered The Walking Dead Season 10, Episode 16. We covered The Walking Dead World Beyond's limited series premiere. And we're covering Fear the Walking Dead Season 6 first episode. I'm glad we're here because the first impressions that I have is holy schnauzers. That was a really, 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 really good kickoff. When Reddit has even softened a bit on their anti-Chambliss and Goldberg stance, you know you're doing something right. But I'm your host, David Cameo. I'm joined by CosmoMom09, Rachael Burt, and Sharon D in the chat. Holla back at your boy. Why I said that. But here we are.
I really liked it. It was a very good first episode. If I had to nitpick, I'm not the biggest fan when we do, especially premieres, all about one character. I mean, I would have liked to see just a little bit about where all the other characters are. Morgan is, he's typical Morgan in this episode till the end.
like barely Morgan, if you want to call it that.
I mean, if we're being totally honest here, Morgan would be dead. He's not going to survive 5 to 6 weeks of an open, bleeding, infectious, gangrenous, oozing, infected wound. But it's Morgan, right?
The suspension of disbelief.
I'll allow it, because he has to survive.
In terms of lore, Morgan doesn't die. And in true nature, he doesn't die.
And Isaac even says it. Morgan, you can't die.
Don't you remember?
Right?
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
That's right. I forgot I don't die.
There's a lack of blood going in my head. Obviously. Let's get one tiny thing out of the way. So the walker that you see right from the beginning, the opening shot, did you for a second think maybe that was Morgan for a second? Just because like the way the feet were kind of like darker and...
No,
you because I thought when I was looking at the teasers, I almost assumed that was him.
I assumed that's what they wanted me to think, which is why I didn't.
Well, no, it was clear from the sounds, right? But like in the teasers, it kind of looked like him. It's like, oh wow, is this what we're gonna see? We're gonna see some torture porn. But the treat that I got instead was like, I don't know if you noticed this, but when the walker's walking towards the graffiti artists, I don't know what to call them yet. But
right.
You see the feet, and then you see a side view you see another view with a cockroach, and then eventually, I don't know if this is at the end or in the beginning, because they show the same shot at the end is the beginning. It's the same shot of this walker walking towards this. What we find out is a submarine, right?
Yep.
And the roach or whatever that's scurrying away, the walker actually happens to step on it. I don't know if you caught it, but it was like
no.
It made a sound, and it actually like this this light green goo came out of it.
Yeah, and I did see that. I just
thought that was quite entertaining. That was like a Nicotero more blood thing, for sure.
More cockroach guts.
Yeah, more slime. It was like Double Dare. It would look like Double Dare slime. That's what it looked like. Do you remember Double Dare?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I don't want this to be lost on you or anybody else. The Double Dare was a game show where kids would go on and fight each other on trivia, and they can, double dare, triple dare, and then take a physical challenge if nobody knew it. Well, most of the kids couldn't wait to do the physical challenge, so nobody learned anything on that show. So Sharon D says, when he spray paints, quote unquote, the end at the beginning, it looks like the before and after placards from season 4. When they used to shift in time, some of the episodes actually pre-pended when they were in the future and when they were in the past. Yeah, gotcha. So and that's what she's referring to. Yeah, that actually makes sense, but it's in reverse. And speaking of reverse, the one thing I wanted to get out of the way also, but seems very, very significant, is there's an interesting callback in the beginning when you see whom we find out is Emil, the bounty hunter. Now, that whole scene is this weird mirror image of the beginning of season 4. where you meet John Dory and he's babbling to himself. Platypus. Yeah, exactly. Meeting John Dory. Sharon says. And it's this weird thing where, obviously John Dory comes across a stranger and saves his life from a walker. And, someone there. Yeah, exactly. He's saying the same words. There's someone there. But the bottom line is that this scene looks a lot like John Dory meeting Morgan for the first time. And yet it's like this dark mirror of, down to Morgan didn't want anything from John, like not even beans, which is the same food, I think, if I remember right, that John was offering. And I remember distinctly making fun of Morgan needed to sleep in the back of the truck because John was too busy snoring and farting, in the front seat. But, Walter happens to take the beans and eats them heartily. Like, this guy is more than happy to take advantage of this, not take advantage, but to avail himself of Emil's services. Let me read what Sharon says. So I'm thinking that the title, The End is the Beginning, doesn't only refer to Morgan at the end of Morgan Jones becoming whatever the heck he's going to be, but also that we're seeing the end of the half-season arc at the beginning. So what we're going to see through the rest of the season is both current time period and going back to see what happened to everybody in the 5 to 6 weeks after Morgan was shot. But we saw the end of the arc at the beginning of the season. Because, first of all, because of this style of filming, Rachel, sorry to disappoint you, but you're going to see a lot more of these character-focused episodes, meaning it's not bottle episodes, but you have a handful, 1 or 2, maybe 3 or 4 characters being focused on for the entire episode. You'll get their point of view wherever they go. You will cross paths with other characters here and there, but that's the style that it's going to be. But what I wanted to mention was one of the interesting things, the fan reactions was, it's a shame we lost that guy, the bounty hunter, Emile. I think LaRue or Josiah LaRue or something.
Yeah, Emile LaRue.
Emile Josiah LaRue or something like that. So they were kind of sad that he was gone so soon. He was pretty badass, determination in his eyes, expert bloodhound skills. And so what I was saying to them is that because of the way this is being filmed, we could see him in earlier scenes where maybe Walter and his key, the key that he eventually gets from Walter when he beheads him, because he had been the one searching for Walter the entire time, that key will come up. You even see a sneak peek with Morgan looking down at the key he ultimately receives from Emile going, "What do you unlock?" So I have a feeling we may see him again. I won't be sad if we don't. And Sharon is just dumping all her thoughts. And on the other side of that, I said I wasn't too worried about June because Jenna was filming, and Robbie reminded me that it was an anthology style. Right, exactly. So because they're filmed in such a way, even though Jenna is filming, we may see her. This may be a prior scene. We may be going backwards. And it kind of dovetails onto the conversation we had about how series start filming. And sometimes the first episode isn't the first one they film. So we don't know. And that's the thing, Sharon D. We don't know. So, no sad face.
The wind always wins.
Chambliss and Goldberg decide.
They're the wind.
Yes, a foul wind. No, JK. I like their storytelling. I liked Once Upon a Time.
I did too. Eric brought up a good point. He wanted to know why Emile was letting Walter eat his beans when he had planned on killing him. I mean, food's got to be scarce,
I think it makes for easy prey. Like you're trapping
you're
trapping a raccoon sort of thing. You're like, oh, here, enjoy this trash I've given you. And he's more than happy to take it too. It's like when you can lull a victim into a sense of comfort, and which clearly worked, you got him in your snares,
He's a bounty hunter. I mean, he's doing his job.
And Sharon is even saying he seems to be honorable with his own kind of code, so maybe it was the kindness to let the man die comfortably, which we have seen him kind of do. There is this sort of weird parlay, it's just a job, it's just what I got to do, that sort of thing.
Brings up the social contract to Isaac.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, there's some sort of honor amongst thieves kind of thing going on here too. And that's the thing, like, that's why I think people like this character, is because he's not just this single-tracked kind of mind, you know what I mean? He's got some layers to him, like Althea in a weird way.
I hope you're right. I hope we kind of go back and forth and he shows up in other episodes, because, I mean, even though he had a bad job to do, I really liked the character. I was excited to see him.
Yeah.
I thought he was cool.
Oh yeah, and then he gets he gets his own little montage, right? The opening intro sequence.
Do you think that was him?
That was the second question. You're jumping ahead. But let's assume it's him for now, just because I want to talk about the sequence. Because did you like the changes? I think most people have said yes, but I'm curious.
I was confused at first because you only see like the one person, and then the dog's next to him too. So I was more confused than anything. And then of course we meet that character right away, and I'm like, really? We're putting bad guys in our title sequence? Okay. That's weird. And then he dies, and I'm like, okay, maybe they'll have like a different bad guy in each one. That seems like a lot of work. And then obviously, as soon as Morgan looks over at that new badass weapon, I'm like, it's Morgan.
It's
not it. Yeah, it's Morgan in the title sequence.
I see. I mean, you could even say it's Emil. But I was going to say, oh, do you think? Because I really don't know. You really can't tell. It's hard to tell.
Right. I think that's on purpose.
Yeah, exactly. As things unfurl, you're going to start to realize there's a lot going on there.
See, Sharon D, I kind of had the same I wonder if they're going to feature the central character in each title card. I kind of had that thought too, but that seems like a lot of extra work.
Look, it's not different than what they did last year and the year before. But I think they're doing just a lot more simple silhouette style, graphic art style openers. I just wanted to get your impressions on whether you liked the changes, between this season and the last two. Like, even the music is a little bit different.
Don't know that I noticed a change in the music. I mean, it had sort of the same feel anyway.
Yeah, the same general tune, but
yeah.
there was a little. It was a little pared down a bit. You could hear a little bit more of the instruments, and I think it had a lot more simpler refrain.
I don't know if I like the title opening just yet. I don't know. That the idea of just having a single person there was different.
Right.
I don't dislike it. I just need to. I don't know. I'll like it more after next week, I think, when I have a better idea of what they're going to be doing.
Well, I'd like you to watch out for one detail that you may have missed in that title sequence. As the character, obviously moves out and into a wider shot, you look in the bottom left in the background, you'll see walkers actually pop up like this, like kind of like a pop-up book almost.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's really subtle and really cool. They kind of come up from the ground, backwards to forwards like this, with their arms kind of going out. So they're like on their back and going out, like kind of like a pop-up book almost, but like very fluid. And it's like about 2 or 3.
Yeah, that is cool.
There's little things you can pick out as it moves outward. Let's go back to the general overall fan criticism, aka Carol. She's never liked the music. She's never liked the opening sequence. She's like, it's different, but. Most people don't. Most people like the original, seasons 1 through 3, like that opener. And
didn't that have like the screechy blaring alarm?
Yeah,
I hated that.
I hated that too. It doesn't say anything. And you know what? The show didn't deliver on that, in my opinion. Like that Fear the Walking Dead. They gave that name to the series, but it just didn't feel that way. It felt like it was about a family, a family just trying to move through this thing. And so but let's run defense. Like, even now I don't feel like the name even applies anymore. Or maybe this season will change my mind. Like, this season may be Fear the Walking Dead. So Sharon D's been actually doing a catch up. She's been watching season 1 of Fear the Walking Dead, and yeah, she didn't like the siren thing either. Oh, and World Beyond Shadow, they were playing Monopoly like the Clark family was at the beginning of the outbreak. I mean, what better, right? What better? Beyond.
The game of life, right?
Yeah. Do you remember when we were doing the teaser breakdowns of the Fear the Walking Dead trailer, and we were obsessing over who Walter ultimately was, but we were saying it was Raleigh, and I'm not 100% certain it isn't, but I'm pretty sure it isn't.
I'm with you. Like, this guy resembled him a lot. If it's not the same guy, it could be his brother.
Remember the same nose shape, the same beardish kind of.
Oh yeah, we did a side by side of the photos in the trailer. Even, I mean, we were all pretty convinced it was going to be him. But then it would be confusing because last time we saw him, he was still with Logan's group, right? We thought Dwight had kind of put a worm in his ear, but it didn't really pan out, and he was still with Logan. Unless Ginny snatched up that whole crew, I don't see him carrying a key around.
And after like Ginny killed all those people, almost, I think, or at least Logan, at least Doris, I could imagine that they'd need some hands left to actually run this equipment, or like some people that they can, some assholes like Raleigh to like run those communities and stuff like that. But to kind of quell Sharondy, yeah, I don't think it is him either. But shame, they should have used him. Whatever. But I guess well, it makes sense though, because what it seems to be that this key, the person Walter was actually supposed to meet these guys at the end of this, well, the beginning and the end of this season, of this episode actually. And he was the one who was supposed to meet up with them, give them the key, and now they have to move because it's not safe there anymore. Wherever there is with the big ass submarine. So we don't know what it unlocks. We don't know what it's for.
Do you think those guys were waiting for Walter?
They say they should have been here by now. We need that key. So one thing that I noticed, we see Morgan wake up. He's in a limo, etc. And obviously Virginia's Rangers are clomping on by, shoots the walker and busts out a window. Morgan crawls out of the limo, and there's something just faded away written on the side of the limo. And I'm hoping that Sharondy may have it, but it looked to me that it said almost one of two things. Just period. I don't think it's that, but it would make a lot more sense if it said just perdad. So instead of just live, just perdad, just die.
What language is that?
Spanish. We were talking about this the other day. Perdad means like death, I think, right?
Muerta is death.
Oh, lost. So perdad is to lose, but also I think it also means to die. Like lose people, lose myself. It's barely visible, but it's weird, and it's there, and it really caught my eye.
Just a small post-production note. Even though we're both right about the definitions by the end of this, we're both technically wrong because the limo says literally just married. So there you go.
Do you remember when we were watching the trailers, and the walkers seem to walk away from Morgan? We find out that obviously it's because his wound is getting a little stinky, little gangrenous. You've not seen something like this on the show where walkers just avoid people. You see it with the guts, but you never see it where a wound is so stanky.
Morgan should have been dead. He should be dead, and the walkers know it too. Would
you say that he's the Walking Dead?
Well, I think everyone is.
Oh, snap, with a clapback.
Oh!
You got me.
He probably smells a lot like Beta did.
Yeah, maybe. No, I think I'm going to be real here. I think Morgan smells worse. just putting it out there.
You're probably right. I've smelled infectious wounds before. And
really?
Yeah, I worked in an animal hospital for 7 years.
Oh my god. The tales your nose would tell, I can only imagine.
I'm so ready for the smells of the apocalypse. That's what I can tell you.
God, I mean, do you think you could get used to that smell though?
Yes, you can. I'm telling you, you can.
Okay. Yeah, after a while, you don't need the smelling salts like right here. I got little smelling salts.
Well, your smell is you do get used to things the fastest. You'll get used to the most horrific smelling anything faster than you'll get used to a horrible taste of something.
Oh, okay. Well, because 9/10 of taste is smell, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm. Something like that. Yeah.
And Sharon says, I worked in a horse stable. You get used to it. Yeah. You
do.
Have you gone nose blind?
You become immune to it.
I just like this mechanic because it was kind of, when we saw that walkers were avoiding him, we were like, what? Did you think that? Okay, so that's a better question. Did you think that might have been the case? I think all of us might have thought that it had some maybe spooky reason, like Morgan doesn't die and yet maybe he's dead. I think, Sharon, I think you may have even said that Morgan is dead. Something like that. Where he isn't really alive. This is before we even saw the episode. And like he was never alive to begin with. What did you think was the explanation for that back then?
Well, first of all, it's Morgan. So he's like standing there waiting to die, and he's not going to because he's Morgan. So my first thought is he's going to let this walker just devour him.
Right.
And then he walks past him. And then I thought, okay, maybe Morgan is also trying to figure out what's going on. Like maybe he's trying to test if if they're just going to walk past him or if they'll attack him. And then as soon as he talks, he says, "Hey, I'm here." Then it turns around and it's like, "Oh, our food." Ah.
Yeah, I really like that line too. Like, there's something weird about like a recurring catchphrase, a recurring phrase. It's like music in a weird way. Like it's like in a way, here. Yeah, it's like pop music almost. You know how like you have the hook? That's Morgan's hook, the chorus. Sure. We can do like a rock song of all his repeating lines throughout this episode, but like that would be the hook. It's like,
I'm right here. Yeah.
It'd be like a death metal song. I'm right here. Remix.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that they brought that back around though. The first time he said that line, it was more, kind of sad. Like he knew he was going to die or he wanted to die, but knew he couldn't. And then, by the end, when he says it again, it has a completely different meaning. And it's like, he's like revitalized by then.
I really had a hard time thinking of what the meaning behind both of these things were too. Like, okay, yes, the second time was in search of, or in purpose of trying to get this thing over there. Like, he's struggling. He's trying to get through the damn gates, right? And then he's looking behind him, and he sees that Isaac joins him. Up until the moment, Morgan is setting out to the gates, you're like thinking to yourself, man, do we really trust Isaac though?
Yeah, I still in the back of my mind was like, he gave him the gun. Like, oh,
I'm gonna walk 2 days around. Why? When I've got a killing machine. I'm kidding.
And if he always had that way in, why didn't he go there first? That was my first. When he mentioned the other opening, I thought, why aren't you already halfway through that entrance then?
Right, because his wife was already in labor, so he would not have made it back in time. But he knew that if Morgan busted through, well, his wife has somebody by her side to help to deliver the baby, so now he's okay with going around. But it's this weird thing. Okay. It's this weird thing. Like, but even still, let's throw all of that away. Like, because we can just as easily assume that his story is not true at all. But when Morgan looks behind him as he's struggling, he's on his knees, he sees Isaac is just coming to his defense. And at that moment, he's like, shit. If this guy is willing to actually put himself in danger, not for me, but for his family, after seeing me struggle, like he knows there's no other choice. His story must be true, and we got to get this shit over to this baby, right? It's his wife. Yeah. And so, but let's go back to the first one. The first time he says it, right outside the limo, the walker walks past him. And what do you think he's feeling in that moment? You think seems like what you're saying is, I want to be devoured. I'm not 100% sure, though. I'm not sure.
Well, I was between that and him trying to figure out, why they're walking past him.
Do you think that he thinks he's not here?
Well, I don't know. I didn't think that. He was just trying to figure out, why they're not attacking him.
Morgan has always had this issue of wondering whether or not he's worth living, he's worth being alive. And I wonder sometimes because in spite of himself, he lives. And he's found out that when you live long enough, you find out you can do the impossible is possible, that sort of thing, right? He's learned this already. He's learned that he doesn't have to lose people and lose himself. So what is this Morgan thinking? That's what I'm thinking. I'm trying to put myself in his headspace. Do you know what I mean? And so he doesn't want to be a part of the world again. He doesn't, and I think part of that is maybe also due to the fact that Ginny may still be looking for him. He has the note on him already, so he's read it already. The note that he shows to Isaac later. You have something to do. With the note, which basically says,
"You don't know me, but I heard your message. You need to do the same. You still have things left to do."
And the message being, which he reveals to Isaac later on, is the just live message.
this person's telling him he needs to live too because he's not done doing shit.
Right.
Which is nice, but honestly, in that opening scene, like you said, he has that note on him, but I don't know. I still think in that moment he would be okay with dying. I don't know that maybe it's wrong to say he wanted it, but if that walker would have started chomping on him, I think he would have been okay in that moment to go.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess, right? Because then he knows his family, his friends, they'll eventually figure it out and take care of themselves, maybe, right? They know that they know that they're safer now that he's out of the picture because he doesn't pose a threat to them by the fact that he's alive. He knows that Virginia is, shot him because people see him as a symbol. It's never been more clear by the end of this episode, because what you find out is that Isaac plays cat and mouse a little bit because he says he doesn't recognize him at first. Eventually, you find out he's been looking at the tapes, and the tapes have had a bigger effect than anybody could have. All of us. Okay, the tapes had a bigger effect than all the Reddit users that slammed the show about. So, like everybody that slams Fear the Walking Dead season 5 for it being like this humanitarian outreach and nothing really happens, and then the beer bottle balloon. But whatever. The fact that they were able to do all these things in the second half and film all their accomplishments, but also get to reveal pieces of themselves they're not done finished with doing, like living, essentially. And not only that, but you find out that Isaac is invested in the stories that are on the tape, to the point where he's like, hey, what happened to your friends, Alicia and John? And he's like, I imagine they're, Ginny split them up, right? And then, obviously Morgan gets pissed about that, but that's not the point. The point is he's so into it and he so believes in what he's got that it has this like revolutionary effect. Like you can look at Morgan as this symbol. I mean, none of them knew that he was alive anymore, but they could tell that he was shot. I mean, anybody in earshot. Oh, and Sharon says maybe he's trying to force the idea that he's still alive for a reason if they won't kill him. And that's sort of where I'm going with this, is that I think he says, I'm right here, just to, at first, confirm that he is really alive, because he narrowly escaped the Rangers just now. I mean, they must have just blown past him and just walked on through. He narrowly escapes a walker, and so he's like, am I dead? Am I still here? I feel like I'm here. I'm losing half my body, like my blood weight. So, like, okay, let me just explain this. I used to have these dreams as a kid, and this is a little dark for a kid to have, but this is probably due to the nature of the fact that I kept moving schools every single year, is that like I used to dream that I was dead, and I would scream at people that couldn't hear me. And so you'd walk around the land of the living completely invisible to them and crying and all this stuff. I wake up sniffing and all that stuff. It's heartbreaking. So like Morgan is kind of like, I don't know that he's a 7-year-old kid. So, but I do think that maybe part of him is kind of like, I'm right here. I'm here. And like, he's just reinforcing the fact that he's still here, but it's all he's got. He's got a catchphrase.
If it's been 5 to 6 weeks since he's seen anyone or talked to anybody, I mean, you would start losing your mind. You would need a reality check like that. So that definitely makes sense.
5 or 6 weeks though. Where do you reference that?
Just what Morgan tells Isaac.
Oh, okay. Yes, that's what I wanted to know. Okay, I must have missed that. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
He says, how long has your wound looked like that? And he said, how long has it smelled like that?
Yeah.
Out of 5 or 6 weeks, I lost track of time. So it could be longer, even, or shorter. Who knows?
We're gonna put this out on the table right now. I'm done with saying it's Madison, and that's the second they bring her ass back in. I'm kidding.
Right.
Oh man. So yeah, let's get that out of the way.
Eric said the same thing.
That he's through thinking it's Madison?
No, that Madison wrote the note and stitched up Morgan.
Eric, we've been like the carrot's been dangling in front of us for 2 goddamn years. It's not happening. It's not. I'm not falling for it. I'll be pleasantly surprised, but I don't think so.
Although that would be very Madison-ish to stitch him up and then just leave him.
Which I think the Reddit, I keep bringing them up, but like I think the Reddit community would actually like, okay, they want that return of, humanitarian. It's like a Sour Patch Kid, you know. First comes the sour, and then comes the sweet, you know, like that sort of thing.
I think it's the opposite. She comes off sweet and then ends up being sour.
I think it's like like the Jello 1, 2, 3. Like there's like layers of fun in with Madison. Like you'll reach a sweet layer, but then underneath she's really just like hard as candy, like a hard candy, like a jawbreaker. That's you know.
There you go. All right.
It's got a marshmallow coating, so you're like squeezing it, and you're like, oh, okay, this is something I can bite. You bite into the marshmallow, and you find a jawbreaker, and that's Madison in a nutshell. Well,
there she is.
In a marshmallow shell.
In a marshmallow shell.
With a chocolate coating, so that's even more deceiving. But we like being tortured.
Did you see what Morgan was looking at through the window above the crib?
Yes, the mobile. Right, the mobile.
The mobile of
the mobile.
What looked like... the mobile, however you want to pronounce it. There's no right or wrong way. Of what looked like carousel horses.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Reminding him of Grace and her baby at the same time.
And the baby, right?
Double
doozy.
And by the way, Sharondy's saying that the person who stitched Morgan up was Dakota. I'm not 100% sure about that.
Dakota?
Yeah.
Why can't I remember Dakota?
Dakota is somebody we haven't met yet. She is Ginny's sister.
Oh, thank you. Okay. I knew I'd heard the name.
Played by not Toni Collette, but Zoe Colletti, which is why it screwed with my brain. I'm not sure about that because from what I'm gathering from her synopsis, I think she actually might be worse than Ginny.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
Is Dakota the younger sister of Ginny?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can tell.
Well, that would make sense. The younger sister would be worse.
Kids in the apocalypse, goddammit. I mean, like, if anything, she looks kind of like a reflection of Annie in a way. They look about the same age.
So much younger.
In real life, I think they are about the same age, too. Look, it seems like this season is tracking to be somewhat of, like, mirror reflections of what these people were. So, meaning... You've got the Fear season 4, season 5 characters building goodwill. No one's gone till they're gone. You take what you need, leave what you don't. And then the other side is just saying, hey, work will set you free. Like Arbeit macht frei, like in Auschwitz, which literally kind of looks like what we're talking about here, too. From the way Isaac is describing Ginny's community, it's like there's a price to pay to live in this security, and it seems too high. Whereas what they were offering was USA. It goes back to that what was it? That capitalism versus communism, but not to get political.
Not to get political.
But
did you look up the coordinates in Morgan's backpack, or was it just me?
No, I didn't. I've learned that on this show, when you look up coordinates, nothing comes out of it. I did it last year for Althea's, the coordinates where Althea's survivors were, the people where she last met. And it was not even registerable on Google Maps or anything like that. I tried every which way to get them to work, but did you?
Well, if I did it right, yeah. My coordinates landed on a road in Texas called Grit School Road.
Whoa.
Grit School sounds familiar for some reason, says Sharondy.
Grit School would sound like something familiar, wouldn't it, though?
Well, after Isaac was telling Morgan that they were in a lake, he's, my grandpa used to take me to a lake, and Morgan says, where is it? And he said, you're in it. This is the lake. I immediately did a search for flooded towns under lakes.
Oh, yeah?
And
in Texas specifically, right?
In Texas specifically. And I think Lake Buchanan is the closest to the coordinates that are in Morgan's backpack. And it's actually, I had to guess, I'm going to say maybe 30 to 35 miles down a stretch of highway from where he is.
Wow.
Yeah. Old Bluffton Ghost Town was flooded in 1938 underneath Lake Buchanan.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, it's not unusual, too, by the way. You'll hear about this every now and again where a city has to flood a town in order to, build their dam. And because, obviously, there is almost no water. out there in the Southwest. And so you have to do these things. Like the Rio Grande has been shrinking ever since, and all this stuff. And, you hear about it. We used to hear about it every year, but now it's just like, okay, Boy Who Cried Wolf, it's not dry yet. Once it's dry, and we'll be like, oh, when did that happen? It's like,
I found a whole list of like a whole bunch of flooded towns or sunken towns, they called them.
Oh my gosh.
That would be so creepy. That might be like the creepiest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
That's a premise of a show too, like how a town had to evacuate because they needed to flood it because the dam was breaking or something like that, or they need to relieve pressure from the dam because the dam was like in front of the town, and the water was just beyond it. But it was about to overflow, and so they needed to release some of it. And I think this was a long time ago. It was like 20 years ago or something like that.
Jeez.
And but this would happen, like every now and again, like every 100 years or so. And then you'll see like a complete town get flooded, and some people didn't get out in time, and then you hear the ghost stories about the people that live under the water.
Are you talking about a specific place, or are you speaking in generality? Because so the first time I searched those coordinates, it landed me someplace in Kansas, and then I realized I did something wrong. But I was looking at lakes in Kansas as well, and there's actually Milford Lake, which has a sunken town under it as well. And it's because there's 6 different like huge floods that did, like, there was loss of life in every single one of them. And there was actually a really sad story about the one in 1951. A man had tied his baby inside of his shirt because they were being washed away. He tied his baby inside of his shirt, and he wasn't going to make it. So he took the baby and tied it to the top of a tree branch for rescuers to come and save the child. They said it took 5 hours. They listened to this baby scream for 5 hours before they rescued it.
Before they were able to rescue it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
They weren't just sitting there on the side going, no. Is it worth it?
Before it was safe enough to take a boat back up to where the baby was. Yeah.
Right.
And even then, like, they still had to fight the current and like take precaution. It was like, I'm reading this article, like almost in tears.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. But yeah. And notoriously, like some of I don't know if this is real or not, but some of these stories would proclaim that like before they would flood these towns, you had these like captains of industry, who are in charge of the dam saying, let's do it now, what's a few lives for progress, things like that. You would hear in the lore of how these towns got flooded because, the people who survive get to tell the tales, right? So there'd be some shadiness behind usually the towns getting flooded, It's not always because of an accident, or it's not always because, of an emergency. Sometimes it's because, somebody wants to get some free, some cheaper real estate after the town gets flooded. Or, it's for progress to keep the dam alive. So, things like that. And so, yeah, and there was actually a Netflix series that got canceled after its first season that was based on this. Like the people who died in the flooded town were suddenly coming back 20 years later, but in the same at the same age. And there was some weirdness behind it too. Like, yeah, there's some sort of supernatural or maybe not supernatural reason behind it. And I was like, I'm interested. Like, it was a hard start, but then like I kind of liked it after a while. And then it got canceled probably. So there you go. I did like the idea of the dam though. Isaac's dam just sounded like a really cool, way to like keep a community safe. What do you think though?
Yeah, I did. I thought that I did think it was a really cool idea. The area that they're in does look huge. So I'm curious as to like how much space they actually have in there. So how safe is it really? But they'd have to go around and find an entire border before they could really call it safe.
Right, like do like a proper survey.
Yeah, like a land survey, yeah.
Yeah, and Charity's saying, but not impregnable, but pretty close to, I
mean, those walls are pretty high, so the biggest threat they would have is the CRM with their helicopters. We'll just come over.
Yeah, I thought it was a cool idea too. Like, I mean, he even says out loud, I didn't even find it when I was a ranger, and you're talking about people that know the land, read maps well, and all that stuff, and they're constantly patrolling out there to find either useful people or people to kill. And Sharon is saying anybody with ropes. But I think the whole purpose of the dam. So look, you're looking at it. You're looking at this from one side, though. The dam on the one side is all slope, but the dam on the other side is all drop. So, who knows? But let's
get up over the wall, straight down.
Yeah, exactly. and you're going to need a lot of rope for that. Look, in this world, though, we kind of learned this in season 4, is that it's slim pickings out there. If the vultures hadn't already got to it, everybody else who has survived has, usually. So I think we have to play with the cards we're dealt. If they say it's impregnable, we have to admit that it's impregnable. If it's slim pickings and you don't have like a steel reinforced grappling rope with unterrible non-hemp fiber weave, etc., I don't know. Would you take the chance at traversing the walls, right? And Charity's saying tie walker guts together. Not a solid plan. Blood is a lubricant. Or maybe do a slip and slide. But anyway, slip and slide down the side of a dam. But I like the idea of this impregnable wall that you guys can live in and live in like the ruined houses and stuff like that. It does kind of even remind me a little bit of Broke Jaw Ranch. Like the way they were all set up, the little shacks and stuff like that. Out in the middle of the field and greens and stuff like that. Let me just say out loud, like what we were saying before the show. I think I don't even know if I mentioned this on the show, but like the way things unfurl in this episode, there's not a lot to be able to expound upon. There are a couple things here and there that you can like pick at and just say, hey, this is kind of cool. This is a callback.
So we've always said all along, Morgan doesn't die. And in my heart, I didn't think that he was going to die. But they did a really good job of making me believe that he could, especially at the end of this episode. Right before Emil walks up and is about to chop his head off or whatever, I thought, you know what, if this is how he goes, I think they did a really good job of setting us up with Isaac, being able to, Isaac knows all these other characters, through the tapes or through Morgan. He seems like he has kind of the same values. I mean, he wants to save people. He wants to build this place up, which obviously that's going to take people. So I thought if we are going to lose Morgan, they did a really good job of giving us another character, They did it well.
Yeah, which actually, what's interesting about that is some of the reactions that I got on Reddit was obviously it's not the nicest thing to have to say, but there is some value to the comment, is that it's good to know that not everybody has plot armor, meaning, people can still die. It's the equivalent of what some people have said on Twitter about The Walking Dead World Beyond, and I had to kind of set them straight. A lot of people are angry with the kids because, they can't seem to put down walkers. They're running away from them, all this stuff. They're not using the biggest comment was they're not using the walker guts. And I'm like, guys, first of all, they haven't been able to kill a walker with which to use the walker guts. You know what I mean? So like, how are you going to do that if you don't have the guts with which to cover yourself? That's bone to pick number one. But then I kind of rolled it back and I said, look, the smartest advice you could ever give a kid or anybody really is to avoid the walkers. If you have to kill a walker, well, you're not always going to get it right the first time. Probably. Let's all admit to ourselves. And the last comment I said to them was, let's be real here. We're all just pre-Rick Eugenes walking around the universe bullshitting ourselves into thinking we could survive this thing. Probably lying, cheating, and stealing our way through it, too. So, let's be real here. And that got a chuckle out of him. So, but my point, yes, you can still die in this world. And I think
everybody's really protected.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember yes, you can get bitten by walkers. Yes, and you need to be reminded of that. And I get so frustrated with people who just think they're the baddest ass motherfucker ever. And it's like, you're not better than Isaac. I'm watching this guy. Right. This guy is tearing up these walkers. Ex-Marine. You're not ex-Marine. Come on, stop talking shit, okay? But interestingly enough, like the contrapositive is true too. When you see Isaac tearing shit up and then he gets bit, that seems to resonate more with people. And they go, well, it was good to see a character that we could get to like, and then also, he can get bit. And I think that's healthy. I think it's healthy for people to see that, realizing it, and then like, yes, they're dangerous, run away from them.
Absolutely. I think you would see it more and more as people gain confidence too. Like, oh, walkers are nothing anymore. Yeah, that's the minute you get bit, when you are overconfident.
Yeah. I want to go back to something that Sharon said also, that Morgan refusing help from Isaac was kind of like a mirror image of the man refusing help from Morgan in 401 What's Your Story? So just to kind of paint the picture on that one, as Morgan, in the week-long journey it took him to get to Texas, he comes across this Jeep Grand Wagoneer, this beige Jeep Grand Wagoneer, which we bring up in our coverage of episode 401. And the guy's sleeping in the back, and he's, Morgan's trying to help him. Morgan, who wants to avoid people, he sees a man who's not doing so well. And the man in the Grand Wagoneer basically tells him to fuck off. And what Sharon is saying is that it's the same thing that, Morgan's doing right now. Isaac is the Morgan right now, and Morgan is the one refusing the help. Obviously it's a little different. Morgan just doesn't want to get him mixed up in whatever Virgin Negan, right. Virgin Negan has in store for him. But, in that respect, it's a lot like, in a weird way, Morgan is kind of like Rick in the pilot. Rick is stumbling across the street. He's still like wrapped in bandages. He's still kind of like weak. I don't know how much fluids he's had or whatever, and, he's coming up to Morgan's house and close to, and, and Dwayne hits him with a shovel. But like at the same time, Morgan is the one who finds him. And Isaac is kind of like like Morgan in that respect, where the roles are kind of reversed. And again, mirror images kind of reflecting each other. Morgan finds a cop car with a gun. and I love this edit that Sharon put up. She put the edit of Morgan next to Martha in the cop car that they kind of stole, like they drove away in near the end of the season. And then you see it again, in the beginning of this episode, something about being strong, and it's just little callbacks to kind of bring you back. But I associated the cop car more with Rick than anything else. And Sharon says Morgan's wound is also roughly in the same place as Martha's. Yeah, that's right. That little, and also just as like gangly and infected. Only if you remember, and this is like something we had to point out when we're doing our coverage of season 4, is that Martha would do this thing where the wound was already kind of gross, but she would like put herself. I remember she went back to her husband's grave and like infested her wounds with maggots, and you could see like the little maggots coming out of the holes and stuff from the buckshot, and it was just kind of gross. And so when you get, and this is cool, when Isaac takes Morgan back to his water tower apartment, the opening shot is like that oozing, like dripping, gooey, pussy wound, and I just thought that was so cool. It almost like looked like it was sizzling in a way. It was like, ooh, it's just disgusting. Greg Nicotero saying more blood, more pus,
right? More infection.
Yeah, a lot of the shots in this episode were really well done too. The best shot that I saw in this episode was just after Morgan realizes that Isaac has passed, and Rachel's relaying the news, and then Morgan's kind of going, yeah. Right after that, you see this kind of like this wide shot of their shack, and it's perfect. Morgan's in the bed on the left. Like I'll point it towards you, like this imaginary scene. Morgan's on the left, and then baby Morgan and Rachel, baby Morgan, are on the right, and then Rufus is kind of like in the middle, off to the left a little bit, and it's just perfect shot of 3 walls, and the fourth wall, the figurative but also literal fourth wall is missing, and it almost looked like, and tell me if I'm wrong, yes, Sharon D, She says it. She looks like the Nativity a little bit. It's kind of weird in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Charity's losing her mind right now. The deluxe apartment. Because I mentioned the water tower apartment. I wrote tons of notes, but like, they're like little details to help me remember. Like Demetrius Gross, I don't know if it was his choice. The guy who plays Emil. He says, my dog was called Hither. I'm like, nobody talks like that. Okay? Nobody talks like that. I know you, because his name is like Emil Josiah LaRue, right? So, okay, he's got that New Orleans, like almost Creole background, right? So I'm thinking to myself, they don't even talk like that. Come now. Don't even with me. Don't even with me. But I liked it. I just liked it. There's something so grand about him that was just so. Sometimes you see a character that just kind of pops out on the screen, and they want you to know they exist, and that was that character. That was definitely that character.
I do. I really hope we see him back. Just other stuff he was doing, or just I don't even care.
Yeah, just go with it, right? Somebody's trying to romance you. You gonna turn them down? No. if he's okay, let's be real here. If somebody you find attractive, let's say a stranger, let's call it a stranger, is romancing you, you'll indulge it just for a little while. You'll be like, uh-huh. And then at some point you go, I hate to break it to you. But in the meantime, you're like, I'll allow it.
Right.
Like, something to keep in mind, by the way, that Grace is not pregnant with Morgan's baby.
Right. No, she was pregnant before we even met her.
Yeah, I kind of, you know what, and I'm only remembering it now, but I kind of wanted to bring up the photo of the guy that she slept with, because I feel like a picture of that guy was in the apartment that I think Morgan was the one who went through her apartment, her old apartment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's where he finds the takeout menu.
Yeah, for a second I thought like maybe like oh, does Isaac look familiar? And wait, that's another thing too. Like, do you think there's any relevance for Emil saying to Isaac, "Do I know you from somewhere?"
I took that as he recognized him as one of Ginny's rangers.
Okay, there you go. That
was how I took it.
Tying it back together. Which yes, we should have sent Morgan some red flags too, but yeah. And I think he's had red flags the entire episode. He's like, how are you pulling out these facts? Oh, I
love how he just like so slowly, nonchalantly walks over to his stick and is like,
the first time.
So funny.
Yeah. He's like, wait, what's and Isaac's going, hey, what's wrong? He's like, what? And he's like, oh, you're what's wrong.
Oh my gosh. Poor Isaac. I couldn't imagine being in that position though. Being who he is, knowing what he knows, giving Morgan just enough to trust him, and I would not envy Isaac's position there.
And his first offering was pickle chips. I mean, like pickle flavored potato chips. Yeah.
Yep. It's funny. They're my favorite chips too.
Really?
Yeah.
I like them too. I kind of like the ketchup ones every once in a blue moon. If you ever get a chance to have them.
It's dill pickle chips or salt and vinegars.
Yeah. You know what? When I was a kid, salt and vinegar, bane of my existence. As an adult, give me more. You ever find
Silas will smash a whole bag.
Oh, really?
Radish cheddar.
Horseradish. That sounds good to me. Get in my belly.
I'm not a fan of horseradish, but with the cheddar, you've got me intrigued. I would try that.
Yeah, do you find that like, okay, I didn't like bagels and lox and cream cheese when I was a kid. Gross. As an adult, yum.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, tons of stuff I would never eat as a kid I eat now.
Oh, well, name a few, because I know you still have some of those holdovers, though. Like things
I do.
You don't like.
Off the top of my head, I would probably say spinach artichoke dip.
Uh-huh.
I never would have eaten that as a kid.
Is it because it's too creamy and the weird texture?
The spinach. I wouldn't touch it because of the spinach. Then I tried some and I'm like, oh, this is like 90% cheese. I'm good.
Yeah. See, there you go. What was my consternation? Why didn't I not have this when I was younger? That's all the time I could have had spinach artichoke dip in my life. Like, so much time wasted. I have to say this out loud. I feel a little off. The thing is that, like, I like this episode so much. Let's do this from a top-down kind of way. A lot of what's going on here is Morgan is essentially dying. Pretty much. Not just in a literal sense. Like, he's dying in a figurative sense as well. And for a second there, when he's fighting Emil near the end, Emil gets his thumb in his wound, right? In his Martha wound. And it was really rough. You're like, you see Morgan grit his teeth and stuff like that, and you're like, argh! And he's really selling this shit too.
I was waiting for him to pass out.
Well, here's the thing. It almost, for a second, if not for him making some noise, like, it almost looks like he's dead in that moment. Like, he pushed it so hard that the bullet went into his, what Isaac mentioned is his artery.
That's right.
And it kind of looks like he's dead. Sharon is even saying, "Oh my God, that made me cringe so hard." And more than cringe, I felt like this is it. This is it. It's over. In a way, like that feeling that you get, like, okay, he's getting out of this, right? Right?
Right.
That little that niggle of doubt in the, like, that just crawls up your ear and wants to burrow into your brain, saying, "He's dying."
That was in my head too. Yep.
And so, what if that was the case? Because at that point, from that point, right before Emil is about to bring down his axe, Morgan finally lifts up his stick, and you feel like he is someone else. Let me give you the sequence too. He brings down the axe. Morgan holds up his stick, blocks it up, parries it, and Emil is trying to basically get the stick, get his axe away from him. In the process of keeping the axe away from him, the stick breaks right at the end, and it creates a little jagged piece. Okay, so Morgan's stick is broken again. Now, Morgan sweeps the leg. Emil goes down backwards, and Morgan shoves his stick into his heart. Charity says he looks at the letter before he puts the stick up. So the letter is to the side of him. It's open. And he pulls the stick up, probably seeing that, the message is just live. Just live, and then we'll see what happens, right? And this is what happens. I feel like he becomes someone else. What's interesting that's happening here is that what you may have missed, Isaac just before that. Well, okay, Morgan is saying to Isaac, I'm not going to make it, so you have to do it. You have to gather my people. I'm going to die here. And Isaac pulls up his shirt and says, "That can't happen." Not exactly, but he says, "I can't do that because of this. So you're going to have to live long enough to do that for yourself." Mm-hmm. And
he says something along the lines of it. The point wasn't to get me here. It was to get you here. Isaac says to Morgan.
Because Morgan said, maybe the whole purpose was for me to get you here, not just to make a place for my kid, which is fair. I mean, like, Morgan often finds himself trying to do one thing, like run away or run towards something with a specific agenda in mind, and he just gets sidetracked, meaning the thing he gets sidetracked with has way more meaning and is way more important. And then, but and stubbornly, we've seen this in the past, is that Morgan will opt to do the thing that he intended to do rather than the thing that's in front of him that he could be doing. Like, okay, finding Henry, he decides to do something else. He's like, "No, I'm not doing that. I'm stubbornly not doing that. I lose people, I lose myself," etc. And now I feel like, because I see him struggle with this, no, I have to stick to my plan. I have this water tower. This is what I'm going to do. I have the medicine. I can stay alive long enough to see this through, and then maybe I can do something else or die. But then you see by the end of the episode that it's not enough for Morgan to change. In a way, he had to kill himself. In a way, he had to decide not to be the same. Like, hell is repetition, right? And I feel like we see this every now and again. Morgan, every now and again, and you see this kind of at the beginning of the episode, is like, Morgan is in that mode where I lose people, I lose myself. And, stay away from me. I don't need your help. I don't want you getting mixed up with me. I only bring people pain, etc. It feels like the same old Morgan, even though he's not crazy, he's not there. He's still got his faculties. By the end of the episode, he's dead. He has to decide to be something else, like Isaac said. I changed, you can change too. I stopped being a ranger and working, paying the price of trying to keep a safe environment for my wife and future child. You can change too. You can change, Morgan. You don't have to be the same thing for them. You don't have to be anything for them. You don't have to do things a certain way. Right. And so Sharon is saying, TBH, the Emil Morgan fight was better than the Beta fight. But more importantly, she says he had to die to live. And I think there's something to that, because what we see by the end of the episode is not only did he take the axe, he's wearing all of Emil's clothing, he's riding his horse, and he has his dog. So he is literally being somebody else. Who that person is going to be, I can give you insights into from some of the sneak peeks. For one flash of a frame in the sneak peeks.
I can tell you who Eric thinks he is.
Who is he?
Momo.
He is Momo! It's like from Ghostbusters too.
Morgan Jones is dead. You're dealing with Momo now.
Or Spanky McMomo Nuts.
Spanky McMomo Nuts.
It's a little behind the scenes. Well, actually, that was from episode 102, if you missed that. Spanky McButternuts at dinner parties. I like the name Rufus because Sharon D says Rufus means red or bloody in Latin. Okay. There's another shot that I really, really liked. Or a sequence, let's say. Morgan is coming out to meet Emil. And on the way to meeting Emil, you hear Rachel moaning and, about to give birth, so meaning life. You see Emil ahead of him, meaning death, and Morgan's in the middle. And there's this weird thing going on because I'm looking at the captions, I'm like, Rachel moaning, Emil speaking, and then Morgan just greeting this in the middle, like, what does he choose, right? And clearly he chooses himself, actually, but there's something about having both of these that may actually mean that, and what we see in the episode is he kills Emil. This is something that he doesn't do. Morgan doesn't kill people, generally speaking. And so... Well,
you're right. Morgan doesn't.
Yeah. And so, right. Morgan's not here right now. Can I take a message?
Yep.
Yeah. Morgan moved out. But what do you think that's going to mean?
That's what I took as you're not dealing with Morgan anymore because Morgan doesn't kill people. Morgan doesn't do that, so I have to become something else that's that can kill people. Honestly, it just makes me think of the opening of Arrow, where he's like, I had to go away to become something else, to be something else. I don't. He has this whole like little thing, and
yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like to me. That Morgan was like going through. I had to become something else to do what I need to do. So that
right. But can we be
my brain went.
Can we be real here? Like, Arrow is one of those shows I just simply had to stop watching. It just...
Oh, I love Arrow. You shut your face.
I know. I watched... Can I tell you? I watched it for 5 seasons. And I'm like...
I watched it for 8.
So there you go. And that's the thing. Like, after a while, I was like, listen. You only came onto this podcast, but was it a year and a half ago about now? Okay?
Something like that.
I had a year and a half on you. Okay, so like it was starting to eat into my like productivity, right? I was watching all these WB shows. I was watching whatever the fuck, Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, everything. I was watching everything, and I realized one thing: if I just took out all the WB shows, I'd have a fuller life. I'm just saying it right now.
You need to take out Game of Thrones to have a fuller life in general.
There are only 8 episodes a season. Come on, man.
In Game of Thrones? Are you serious?
A season, yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Oh my god. Every time I find out something new about this show, it makes me hate it more and more and more. How can you even call it a show? Oh my god.
Sharon wants to talk about the keys they're looking for. Okay, she's saying that the keys that they're looking for are for nuclear equipment on the sub. Good leap. I will say that I did read what the key actually said because I got the highfalutin technology.
Yeah, my screen was not good enough to get anything off that key. I knew you would though.
It was a rough read, but there's not much to go on. But it does go to the nature of what this key could be for. It says no duplicates registered. Now that could mean it's I don't even think it would be not a post office box, a bank deposit box, because I think both the bank and the person have that key, right? So it would be something that you couldn't legally duplicate. Like literally, you couldn't.
I know. I like what Sharon says about Ginny's reaction when she opens the box and finds Emil's head instead of Morgan. Yeah, right. That few seconds watching her emotions change on her face, that was really good. That was really good.
That's a moment for Colby Minifie too. Like,
yes,
there's something about how she played. First of all, let's go even just after she opens the box. What's the first thing that she does?
Addresses Morgan.
No. She laughs.
Oh. Well, sure.
I love that choice because I was laughing too. I was kind of like, It's like, oh, what the fuck? This guy just doesn't fucking die. I love that choice. You could easily have done the Frady Cat, oh, what was me thing, like, or whatever, but there's just something about like having that position of power, seeing what this one guy managed to do after being shot nearly to death. And then she laughs, and I just love that choice. It just makes so much sense. I'm laughing with her. Yeah, and then of course she buttons up and she's like, fuck this. I don't need to tell him you're dead. Because if you ever show your face around here again, if I even hear your words on their lips, they are dead. Dead like Madison, dead.
That's right. Dead as Madison.
Dead as Madison. Never to return. Although Gimple just pulled another boner, saying that he's not ruled out Madison Clark being on Tales of the Walking Dead, which basically made everybody splooge all over the internet because, I mean, at least on Reddit, because they kind of want her to come back and be the badass Madison, and then somebody has to come in, only if Erickson does it. If Erickson does it, it'll be great. But if anybody else does it, it'll be bad. It'll be stupid. And I had to tell him, calm your horses. A lot of the times when you do like a Tales of, like a side kind of, and you know, a series, not a series, what are they called? I guess they're kind of anthologies too, like one-offs. They're usually not given to the original showrunners. They're given to people who can make certain specific changes to make them more exciting and not the same old. You know, obviously you have the same spirit of the character, but you don't have the same character, maybe. And Sharon is saying, give Colby Minifie the Emmy now. She's meteoric. I mean, between her performance in The Boys and this, awesome.
I'm with Sharon to hear if they do bring Madison back, we need to find out how they survived the dam.
That's what many people are saying too.
Yep.
I'm almost like not interested. Think about it this way. That seems like a very complicated task to perform. To kind of go through the whole dam story. Like what happened after the dam. And most people say, if you're going to go through the dam, what happened to the Proctors? And if you're going to go through the Proctors, what happened to Kalataka Walker? And if you go through that, then you have to do this and you have to do that. I'm like, okay, calm down. I mean, you're not going to get everything you want. You're not. It's a one-off. It's going to be an hour long. It has to have a beginning, middle, and end. Probably. So you are undoubtedly going to be unsatisfied if you have that attitude. My guess is it's maybe going to show her last moments at the Diamond.
I'd be willing to watch that
with some cuts to maybe the dam, after the dam. You know, maybe some past scenes before the fall. We don't know. Like her literally her life flashing before her eyes, and it could make us feel even better. Not even better, like okay with the way she went the way she went out. Because the number one complaint, either way you fall on the Madison like or dislike scale, is that we didn't see a body. Or, you know, that sort of thing. You know, you could hate her, but say, I'm not satisfied until she's ashes. You know, it's sort of like until I see, oh, that's a bit of her hair. Or Walker Madison. You know what I mean?
She's the only person I'm willing to admit is dead without having seen her body.
There you go. And I think Sharon feels the same way. Sharon saying a mirror of her survival at the dam / death at the diamond, which basically what I was trying to say. The sort of like reconciliation, right? Of the person she was just after and then just near the end. And she concludes by saying, and this is coming from not a Madison fan.
Right.
Well, let's finish our thought about Virginia, though. Threatening Morgan, and then Morgan says, Morgan Jones is dead, and you're dealing with someone else now. I like the and, though. It's like Morgan Jones is dead, and you're dealing with someone else now. Meaning, you basically dug your own grave. You may have killed Morgan Jones, but somebody worse is left in his place. I kind of want to dovetail that to the sneak peeks, because one of the flashes near the end of the sneak peek is Morgan swings his axe and hits what looks like someone living, not someone dead. And like a reflection of that. And obviously Sharon D saying, Walker, Texas Ranger, in response to Morgan's outfit, which again is just to remind everybody, it's Emil's outfit that he's taken on himself. And this kind of reflects also the next scene, which is the next flash, which is June pounding on someone from the top. Or I think it was either that or CPR. I can't remember what it was. Matched with another flash of the oil fields exploding. So general, violence, and explosions.
I do hope that Morgan chooses to go by a different name or have some different moniker, because when you say Morgan Jones is dead, you can't continue to call yourself Morgan Jones.
Maybe. I mean, I like the idea of what he's saying to Virginia. Like, he's not even saying it to her. He's saying it to himself. He needs to be something else than what he's been. I'm Mo Jones.
Even if he says, I don't have a name, I'd even be satisfied with that. But to say Morgan Jones is dead and then continue to call yourself Morgan Jones, I don't like that. I don't like the idea of that.
You know what I like even less? I like even less the idea that he wouldn't be using the name Morgan Jones, because the idea of Morgan Jones, the idea of him, is so powerful that Isaac is moved to leave the Rangers. The idea of him as like pseudo leading this group was enough to help a lot of people. The person that helped him out,
sure,
who he happened to reach.
Morgan Jones anymore.
Right? No,
he's not that person.
But you know what I mean. Like,
I do.
And why would you relinquish that name?
Morgan Jones will always be that symbol. He's got to give up the name because he's not that person anymore.
I think I see what you mean. The name can live on, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it could be in people's mouths, but he has to be himself, something else. Yeah, I can accept that. Oh, God.
He's Rick Grimes.
Like Sharon D says, he's Rick Grimes. Okay, is this the new It's Madison?
He's Madison.
Yeah.
So, I hope he introduces himself as Madison.
yeah, exactly. No, but what I mean is like Morgan rips off his mask and it actually is Rick Grimes.
Right. Oh gosh.
Oh gosh. What if that was real? Okay. Like, oh, you want to know where Rick was all this time? He's had like a mistaken identity, like was an identity crisis, and he's actually Morgan.
We'd be in an episode of Scooby Doo if that were the case.
Oh, it was Old Man Withers the entire time.
I would too.
And I would have gotten away if it wasn't for you. I don't know, Rangers, and that dog Rufus.
And your stinking dog Rufus.
Yeah, but yeah. So what my point is though, that when Morgan is swinging his axe and hitting this live person, I think we're going to start to see that Morgan is even more okay with killing than we thought, and I'm not sure what that means. Is that his way forward? Is violence, maybe taking out Rangers here and there, gonna be his forward path? I know it doesn't, and that's weird. Like, you kind of like it, but you also kind of like, I don't want him to lose his soul in the process, in the pursuit of.
That's exactly where my head is. I do like the idea of this, killing Machine Morgan, but then at the same time, I'm like, but that's really not good for him.
Yeah, and not good for us too.
Oh, it's great for us. Are you kidding? We get to watch it.
Right. But you know what? Now that you're mentioning it, who does that kind of remind you of, though? One of your favorite characters.
Being a killing machine?
Mm-hmm.
Beta?
No. Well, prior to Beta.
He definitely lost his way.
Yeah. Yeah, a long time ago. No, your favorite character, Carol, in a way. And who have we said always is kind of like a mirror of, they're mirrors of each other in some ways. They kind of snake
Carol
in
and Morgan.
Yeah.
Carol and Morgan have always kind of had this opposite, character thing going on. Yeah, absolutely. And we even saw Carol way back when, when she was trying to keep track of all the humans she killed.
And having this crisis too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like of conscience. Like, what did I have to be the survivor? And I had to be this. So, and Morgan has the same problem, like between the clearing, between finding some sort of balance, and then coming back and having issues with killing. And so I kind of like what's going on here. I feel like the way this is going so far, I have nothing to back this up except for the feeling the way I see him on that horse talking to Ginny. There's something of he knows what he has to do. He knows who to be, but I don't think he's lost himself. It's just a feeling. There's nothing based in reality to this opinion. But I feel like everything he does from this point, it's going to be over his usual limit. But I think he's going to rubber band back somehow.
Hopefully the ends will justify the means. I think that would be enough to bring him back, right? If he goes through all of this and then he's able to save his people, he can say it was worth it, hopefully. Yeah.
He's like a D&D character, kind of like what Sharondy's saying, like a D&D character who's like chaotic good, let's say. And she's saying he's always been one extreme or the other, now he's in the middle, which is why I'm getting this feeling. And she says they got rid of the gray filter and gave us a gray Morgan. Or a morally gray Morgan. Which, by the way, I like the visuals. I mean, like we are in a setting where it's not, too green, it's not too gray, it's not too blue, it's not too warm. It's real. We're in the real world now. Yeah, it almost started that way though. When you see the opening sequence with Morgan in the limo, it does have a little bit of that blue tinge. But then he comes out of it.
All of Fear the Walking Dead has a very diluted look to it. I mean, they suck almost all the color out of every episode. Except
when it's intentional, right? Like in the past scenes in season 4.
Right, like Madison and Nick laying in the flowers. that was real bright and beautiful.
You just had to go there. The one overall thing I will say about this episode, because it keeps popping up in my notes, is how good certain shots are. Going back to morally gray Morgan, when he sees the walkers in the distance and decides to pick up the axe instead of the stick, there's this really clever shot of him looking at Walker head Emil, and Emil almost looks angry at him. Like, don't you dare fucking touch my axe. And it's like this nice shot, like as he's looking at the Walker head, just before that, he's looking directly into the camera, as if he's looking at you. I said, what would you do? Would you pick up the broken stick like I did last season and try to work with it? Or would you work with this almost like Negan's bat looking axe too, by the way? The way it's wound up.
Sure. Yeah, it's got
It's got little metal twine and whatever.
When Morgan stepped towards the camera and was looking at us, I mean, obviously the first thing I noticed was how much more clear his eyes were. So I thought, okay, we're seeing him healed, healthy, recovering. This is the new Morgan.
Right. Healed up.
Or whoever he chooses to be.
Antibiotics. Yeah. I mean, exactly. Or chooses to be. And again, I have to remind everybody, this is what Isaac said. You can change. You don't have to be the same way you were with these people. You can be another way and still help them. Because again, Morgan, single drive. He's going for a thing and he doesn't bend usually. And so having heard that, the advice from a dear friend who helped him out, whose purpose was to fulfill, like, to realize that your words, just your words and actions, affected people so greatly that not only he left, like Tom, remember when Tom died in the last season? That helped him too. Janice is along with our group too. You know? And Sharon says, not the tax man, the axe man. Get it right. Now let's talk about the guys at the end / the beginning, right? The beginning is the end, the guys who are doing the graffiti on the submarine. Mm-hmm. If you look at the sneak peeks, and we'll go through them, but one in particular that I want to look at is the 2 to 3 mannequin masked people, right? Now, I think those guys who are spray painting are the people behind the masks.
Okay.
You get hints of that because I feel like they're going for the keys, and what better way to go for the keys than the people who have keys as their flag? You know, if you're going to find the key.
They could all be, ex-Rangers who maybe formed a group, and so they know about the keys and are trying to get them.
Yeah, and I don't know.
If they were waiting for Walter, especially, or not. Walter.
Yeah,
especially.
That could have been his key, right? Maybe. Mm-hmm. And do the keys have meaning? Because if you look at Victor Saran's key, it looks very wonky. It doesn't look like it would open anything practical. But if you look at some of the other ones, like Ginny's key is famously, it looks like one of those old style keys that opens up a, I don't know, like an old door, or like an old door that has no specific groove pattern. It's just that one little nubbin.
Looks like a skeleton key.
Well, yeah, essentially, yeah. You could put it in any door, and because the door itself is stupid, it just has one of the. It has one of those deadbolts and nothing else. This is before doors had security.
Yeah.
Or like even like a jewelry box or like a bureau, that kind of key.
Okay. Yeah.
Nothing fancy, anybody, you could open it with like a screwdriver, whatever. But as the season goes on, you're going to notice that a lot of the keys that these Rangers have, they don't look like anything like the other, Wondering what that means going forward, I don't know. But maybe we'll find out. Maybe we won't. Maybe it's completely arbitrary. Maybe it's just like a visual representation of what this person is, right? Yeah. Oh, this guy has a bank key. This guy has a key that opens one of those. What are they called? Those stupid fucking little fire safe keys, or like those little filing cabinets. Box? Yeah, exactly. Like a little lock. It's like a shitty like circular key. Yeah, one of those guys has those little tiny shit key, right?
I have one of those.
But they're stupid, right? They're absolutely stupid.
It's for my lockbox. No, it's very important. That's where my gun is. Very important.
You got to get another lockbox. I'm kidding.
No,
but like
lockbox.
But the interesting thing about Morgan, the key that Morgan has finally picked up from Emil, and also via Walter, is it looks completely different
because it has the "do not duplicate" message on it. Those keys are very specific to something, and I've worked places where I had one of those keys, and so yeah, it's good. That one anyway has to go to something. It can't just be a symbol,
right? It has to go to something very important, and and as Sharon D actually notes, well, I'll get to the one thing, but. Yeah. As she notes, is episode 4 or 5 is named The Key, which is also the same name of an episode in season 8, I think, of The Walking Dead. The Key to the Future. I think that one was called The Key as well, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know if that has any interplay, but we'll find out. But then she says, "Oh yeah, the key that Virginia has, it's a key to her diary, basically." Yeah. Dear diary, I tried to kill Morgan.
Again.
It didn't take again. What am I gonna do? I am so sad. The end.
I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Exactly. I was gonna say, see you tomorrow. Question mark parentheses.
Maybe. Oh my god.
Like that kind of half-hearted optimism.
Right.
Like I know I might die. So let's go through the sneak peeks. Virginia's speaking to Lawton, the town Lawton, and she says, "We're all here for the same thing." Flash to John Dory in the background. Well, John Dory's in the background speaking while she's speaking, and then cut to Alicia and Saran in cuffs. And it's probably because I think it was the opening minutes where one of the Rangers is coming up to them and saying that the literal shit that they're burning the guts, the poop, is wafting into town. They're like, I'm trying to have lunch. You know, I don't want to smell shit when I'm trying to eat lunch. And then, but the cool thing about that opening sequence is that Strand is just giving it to this guy. He's like, you know what? I'm burning your shit. You know, if you don't want us to do it, you can do it yourself. And he goes, and he steps out of Althea's van because he's an Althea SWAT fan. Steps out and he goes, you want to say that to me again? I said, Strand, I love it. Classic Strand. If you want us to not do it, you can do it yourself. And then he throws it and it's just like guts and like brown guts and goo and watery, gross, right on his shoes. And that's where it kind of cuts out. But you can see that they're probably in cuffs because of that incident in this flash. Virginia continues on with her speech. People need to feel safe as residents are, it pans to a shot of residents doing their part, sweeping porches and carrying bales of hay, because that's what that means, right? Oh, and then this really quick flash of a wolf dog barking, like really quick. And then she continues on, and we're going to make sure that they do. You know, people need to feel safe. And it clearly, a freshly killed resident is face planted. It's facing the camera, right? And its face is against barbed wire while walkers are eating it. And then you actually see the guy turning, and half his face is eaten off too. Like it's like a fresh human turning walker.
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely gross and great at the same time. And then a ranger's running from behind him towards the body. So something's going on here. Somebody's causing some chaos, either in Lawton or one of the other settlements.
Mm-hmm.
And then Virginia continues on. An example will need to be made. And then two individuals with the mannequin masks that I was mentioning before, one points a gun at the camera, and a third, maybe, could be the second one, takes a half-naked woman with a black hood over her head. We don't know who that is. Wes, and then following the example needs to be made, Wes is in a cot screaming in pain, looking up.
Uh-oh.
Okay, Morgan, now cut to Morgan, you hear him in the background saying, my friends are inside Virginia's communities. And it shows Althea being held back by Dwight with an axe, just behind him, in like a dark bathroom, just being lit by their lamps. So they're like that little horror element, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like dark, and the lamps kind of make a tingy green in the dark. Okay, flash of Daniel Salazar, and then just looking up, and another flash of June with oil slicked hair and like oil like on her forehead as well. That's famously Sharon D put that up, Blazy Gardner on Instagram, obviously. Morgan continues on. We'll find everybody. Alicia is out on an obs deck. You see her from behind, and Charlie's inside with a clipboard in front of her. And an unknown woman, I think it's Alicia, but I'm not sure. And she goes, and go where? And it shows another shot of Alicia looking out with binoculars. And the next scene cuts to the three remember the teaser where you see the three mannequin-faced masked people on horseback?
Yeah.
As SWATies trying to shoot them with the guns, but they can't because they're too close. Someone in a 41 jumpsuit says, and this is another shot, is trying to save another one from walkers underneath a garage door. So there's one person, an older gentleman, who is like going, and then 41 jumpsuit, I think it may be Strand, is trying to pull him, but walkers are kind of pulling him under the garage door. A little more horror element here.
Ooh.
Exactly. Who knows? Seems futile, I wrote. Really? Okay, this is the Rachael reaction that you would normally get. Okay, really, really gross walkers. Really gross. Red eyeballs bulging out. Like as if like it's like a cartoon choked, like kind of a chokehold kind of thing, and then their eyes, they're like red with dark eyes in the middle. And like really gross and like mangled, like bare chested, etc. And they're walking into this red lit house or something like that. And it includes in the back. So one of the walkers out front has like antlers on the front of them. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah. Yep. Okay.
And if you catch it, like, and it's here, it's not on the head. It's here, like across the chest, but you could see in the back. as they enter in. There's one with the antlers on the head.
Okay, like that must be the one we saw.
That what we were describing as a demon.
Right?
Oh my God, it's a demon.
We knew it was not a demon. In
Right.
fact, we probably said somehow got antlers on it, but it did look demonic.
Right,
that was terrifying.
You don't have the luxury of a pause button when you're seeing the commercial on an episode of The Walking Dead.
Right.
And you're like, demon! Demon! I swear to God.
It's the devil.
It's the devil himself. Okay, the same woman, the unknown woman who says, we don't have much time. And then Charlie is being almost falling back into a bunch of walkers behind her. So that looks dangerous. You know, she's like, kind of like, whoa.
Oh, boo-hoo.
Yeah. Hey, it's a little girl. Anyway, let's move on.
It's Charlie.
And there's another quick shot of John having to shoot someone.
Person?
It looks like he's pointing his gun down, or he's looking down, and he's looking down like this, and then you hear a pop and you see a flash of light.
Is he shooting a person, or could it be a walker?
Well, he's close up here.
Uh-huh.
He's looking down. It looks like he has time. It looks like almost like an execution.
Ooh.
You know, like he's.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
You see him from chest up.
Ooh.
And he's looking down. He has like this face of kind of like almost pain, but also like it's come to this kind of thing. And then like he tilts his head a little bit with his eyes closed, and then you hear like you hear a pop, and you see the flash.
Maybe it's Ginny.
Of a gunshot.
Maybe he's killing Ginny.
Maybe. And you know what? Maybe that would be interesting, because then
wait, that's just for the next episode though, right? Not the rest of the season.
Well, we don't know. I mean,
oh, okay.
I didn't hear in the next episode, because that seems like a lot for an anthology episode, right? So it could be one of those things like after the first episode, it gives you kind of like which they've done before, that gives you kind of like a view of like the next 8 episodes, or even 16, you know, like these various shots from all these different episodes, because I don't think they're all going to be in the next one. No, and Sharon D, I don't think...
Put June down. Oh, no.
I don't think, dear God, if he has to put June down, I'll stop watching the show.
Oh,
I don't know. I'd be compelled to want to know why. I'll say that much, but I don't...
Well, if she had turned...
I don't know why you would... Oh, well, that I would hope that he would, right? And if that's the case... I could see why he'd be so... I mean, I could see in either scenario why he wouldn't want to execute someone, you know?
Oh, that just made my stomach hurt so bad.
But, you know, it's so out of my brain. It's so not in my head. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me that it doesn't register. Like, you'd have to get...
To keep him compliant? I mean...
That seems like a... See, there would have to be build up to get to that point, and we don't have any context. So This is why I'm not there. I don't worry without reason. You know, like, I know that in order to keep John compliant, you'd have to keep June safe. Period. Even if he doesn't...
Or take her off the board.
But then you'd have a loose cannon. For sure. There's no way.
That's true. If they lost June, they'd have to put John down.
John would rather die in a blaze of glory.
That's true. Okay. All right. I feel better now.
Yeah. I mean, there's limits. There's limits to how far you can push John. And John can be pushed. We've seen it. He can be pushed pretty far before he'll snap.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Strand, Alicia, and Janice are armed with like assault-looking rifles. Still in their work jumpsuits. Strand says, "We have enough." Guns! And this is the Morgan swing his axe. June pounds someone from up top. It looks either like CPR or she's actually beating on someone. The oil fields are exploding, and Morgan, shaved and groomed, looks down at the key and asks himself, "What do you unlock?" So okay, Morgan, Texas Ranger, I guess eventually does not be Texas Ranger. So Sharon goes, "Don't get me started on Blaze of Glory. I think I'm going to leave it here. Look, we did our best with this, and with the magic of editing, hopefully we can get something salvageable, because I felt a little off. But that's not to say that this episode wasn't great. It gave us so much. It didn't tell us anything more, but it gave us a window into where this is going to go, as all maybe first episodes do. Because a lot of the things are self-explanatory. A lot of things we had to kind of pick out, and kind of further expand on, but not much. It just kind of happens. I'm eager to see what the actual next fucking episode is. It looks like it's going to be an Alicia Strand episode from the first look. Yeah, Charity says, I think we covered most of it. Yeah, we certainly had enough notes, but at the same time, not a lot to say. I mean, rotters, we've heard that word before in the universe, by the way, rotters.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was at the hospital, if I'm not mistaken. Grady Memorial.
I know we've heard it before, yeah. I know we have.
Yeah, like, as long as you're dying or choose to die, help me, Isaac says. Yeah. I mean, let's leave off with the one line that I really, really liked, that Isaac says to, that Morgan actually says to Isaac. He says, why would you do that for me? Oh, no, Morgan says to Isaac, why would you do that for me? Why would you take care of me? He says, you get me to my family, I'll take care of yours. And that, like, stern look, that self-assured, confident look that this is what he's meant to do. Even though we all don't trust him yet, when you look back on that moment, it's like, fuck, you believe it.
Mm-hmm.
This is your fault, Morgan. You didn't know it at the time. And I think this holds true for most people, but you gave him something to work with.
Yep.
Yeah. And with that, everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. If you like what you heard, rate thispodcast.com/squawkingdead. 5 stars and an eggplant is all we need to hear to let us know that you loved us. Well, but you can add some more if you like. And if you'd like to support the show, ko-fi.com/squawkingdead. That's coffee.com/squawkingdead. Follow us there, create an account, and just follow us there. And if you see something you like, throw us a coffee. It costs less than a cup of coffee and you'll get 30 days of access, but you can subscribe to a cup of coffee a month and the party will keep on rolling. Join us in these recordings, get the unedited recordings, and just live.